Good morning. The death toll from the Los Angeles wildfire crisis is expected to rise today as authorities begin to search the devastated ruins of thousands of homes. One of the fires in the Pacific Palisades area is thought to be the most destructive in the city's history. Entire neighbourhoods have been wiped out and 3 of the biggest fires are still burning out of control. This is what we know this morning. 6 people have so far been confirmed dead. Officials say between 4,000 and 5,000 structures have been destroyed, including some of the city's most valuable real estate. 180,000 people remain under evacuation orders, a measure that likely saved hundreds, if not thousands, of lives. Isabel Mullen is live in Los Angeles for us this morning. Izzy, there's an emergency unfolding not far from you.
There certainly is, Amber. Good morning. About 40 minutes from where we are, there is a new fire, the Kenneth Fire. There is an immediate evacuation order in place for that area. It's in the West Hills of Los Angeles around Calabasas, so we will be watching that extremely closely. Here in Altadena today, absolute devastation. Many people are returning home to absolute ruins. There is nothing left here, just folded sheets of metal and shattered glass. They actually blocked off both entrances to this town in Altadena. People have been made to park their cars there and walk up, a devastating walk for them, walking back to their homes, sifting through the rubble and trying to find anything that might be left. We spoke to one gentleman. He was caught off guard, completely surprised his house was still standing.
I shouldn't be crying because my entire block is burnt down, but God saved my house. It's not to say that anybody else is undeserving, it's just why. You know, why are all of my neighbors, why are they? And then in the middle of 2 burnt down blocks, there's one house standing, and that's mine.
Izzy, 6 people have been confirmed dead so far, but officials have said they frankly don't know where the true death toll stands.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking, Amber. That death toll is expected to climb today, particularly in Altadena. I know that 5 of those 6 at least are confirmed dead here, and they're accessing many of the streets across Altadena for the very first time. So they're walking in, making sure that nobody is trapped there. We had a really heartbreaking conversation with a woman this morning who'd returned to her home. She was looking for her 87-year-old aunt who lives alone and is also feared dead.
I'm feeling blessed. I have my life. My aunt is missing, and we're not sure where she is. The padlock is on her gate, but there's no house. So we have to look through the rubble to see if she's there.
At the moment, firefighters have the benefit of almost no wind here. It's gusting at about 40 kilometres an hour, which is pretty normal for this area. I'm told coming down from about 160 kilometres an hour. That wind is expected to pick up again, so we'll be watching that closely, particularly with this new fire, the 6th fire breaking out near Calabasas. Amber.
Devastating scenes. Isabel Mullen live with the latest from Altadena, Los Angeles this morning. Thank you. Back home, and a shocking ambush has seen a man shot dead in Melbourne's northwestern outskirts. Rory Campbell is at Caroline Springs. Morning, Rory. The victim was a known Middle Eastern organised crime figure.
Amber, the victim of this shooting is 33-year-old Harhey Shawani. He's well known to police for his involvement in organised crime. He has links to outlaw motorcycle gangs. He was killed in a spray of gunfire last night, and police believe they're hunting multiple offenders. Bullet casings littered Hasten Parkway here in Caroline Springs after this shooting, which happened around 10:30. Neighbours heard the gunshots ring out and say shortly afterwards they saw Mr Shawani going door to door for help.
My son called the ambulance, and we were giving some basic first aid help, and The ambulance came about 20 minutes later.
Unfortunately, that male succumbed to his injuries and died. We believe one of the offenders may have been injured at the time of the attack.
The police operation to find those responsible for killing Mr Shawani is quite extensive. There's a big scene here in Caroline Springs where there's a white Volkswagen with what appears to be a number of bullet holes in it. Forensic police have also examined a nearby home with what also appears to be a bullet hole in one of its windows. Officers say they believe those responsible for the shooting were in a stolen Volkswagen Tiguan, which was found burnt out in a nearby suburb. Amber.
Rory Campbell live with the latest from Melbourne. Thank you. There's been a new anti-Semitic attack in Sydney, this time targeting a synagogue in the city's south. Annie Puller is in Kogarah. Morning, Annie. Shocking graffiti was spray painted on a place of worship.
Good morning, Amber. The graffiti has been cleaned off now, and this rain would certainly be helping, but the hateful speech and offensive signs sprayed across the southern Sydney synagogue here have deeply distressed a community already on edge. Now, police say this offensive attack unfolded in the early hours of this morning. Vandals spraying at least a dozen red and black swastikas along with racial slurs right across this place of worship. Now, the president of the synagogue has told 7 News he's reviewed security video here which clearly shows two young suspects, both wearing masks and both wearing hoodies, loitering around the synagogue and running away. This attack has obviously caused a lot of hurt in the community, with residents here saying anti-Semitism has no place in Sydney.
Pretty much devastated by the whole things, but you never see anybody else's buildings being targeted.
My parents were survivors of the Holocaust, and of course it brings back many distressing and terrible images.
Now, this graffiti rampage follows a string of anti-Semitic attacks across our city in the last few months. The president of the Jewish Board of Deputies has reacted to this latest one, saying, "We are outraged by yet another disgraceful attack on a Jewish place of worship overnight. No Australian should be afraid to attend their place of worship or be fearful walking the streets of their community. No Australian should have to wake up every morning filled with apprehension about whether or not there's been another anti-Semitic hate crime overnight. Laws must be tightened to more efficiently deal with hate speech and incitement to violence and individuals who commit crimes such as this." Now, both the Premier and Assistant Commissioner visited the scene this morning. Chris Minns labelling this attack disgraceful, and Amber, I should say, a major police investigation to find these vandals is right now underway.
Annie Puller live with the latest in Sydney. Thank you. We have breaking news now, and a police officer has been shot and injured in Brisbane this morning. Police were called to a disturbance at Annerley just after 9 this morning, and police say an altercation occurred that resulted in an officer and a male person being shot. Both have been taken to hospital for treatment. To Melbourne now, and Novak Djokovic has dropped a bombshell on the eve of the Australian Open, claiming he was poisoned during his COVID vaccine deportation ordeal. Nick McCallum has the fallout from Melbourne Park. Nick, what's the reaction been from Tennis Australia?
Well, Amber, Novak Djokovic had a charity event here last night, but he was far from charitable towards Australian authorities in a magazine article which has been published overnight. In it, after he was expelled from Australia, he felt ill. He did some toxicology tests and they found high levels of mercury and lead in his blood. Now, the journalist said, "You're saying from maybe the food or something?" And he replied, he shrugged and raised his eyebrows and he said, "That's the only way it could have happened." He also claimed he was not anti-vaccination, rather pro-freedom. A short time ago, Craig Tiley, the tournament director, did a media conference. This was his reaction.
Honestly, I'm not going to go there. It was more than 3 years ago. Absolutely focused, maniacally focused today on testing the grounds, getting everything ready. Big day tomorrow with Kids Tennis Day in 2.5 weeks. And, you know, I interact with the athletes the whole time, and whether it be Novak or the others, we have really good working relationships, and we'll continue with that.
And Novak's good friend Nick Kyrgios hit the court today for a training session. He, of course, has been out of Grand Slam tennis for 18 months. Playing in a tournament earlier this week, he felt an abdominal strain and has rested since then. He did a media conference a short time ago saying he feels good, and all players play with niggles, so the indications are he will go ahead and play. He says he's got 3 days to improve, and he also intends to have a fairly intense session on the court this afternoon. Let's hear from Nick.
Feeling pretty good, and then I'm actually hitting again this afternoon to test it out a little bit and see how it feels. But as of right now, I've still got 3 days before the tournament starts for me, and yeah, I'm just taking it day by day.
And Nick says he is really looking forward to playing. Being back here at Melbourne Park for a Grand Slam, he said, feels like being home.